Hello, hello. Welcome to VP Media Pro. I am your host, Quaōcha. Thanks for joining. VP Media Pro podcast takes a holistic approach to encouraging and educating aspiring entrepreneurs on the life cycle of business ownership. Listeners will hear open discussions from business experts and community leaders on different business success topics that range from leadership, trends, business planning, work-life balance, money, marketing, mindset, and so much more. Today's episode is the importance, benefits, and value of goal setting. I have the pleasure of introducing a certified entrepreneur, business success coach, published author, and servant leader from Virginia Beach, currently residing in Richmond, Virginia, who also serves as a consultant and mentor for a couple of organizations within Richmond, Virginia. Our guest is the founder and president of Strategic Foresight Initiatives and the business success coach for the Skill Up Entrepreneurial Program within the Village Project. I want to welcome to VP Media Pro, my business success and longevity expert coach, Joann Mayo. Hey, Joann, how are you doing today?
Hi, Quaōcha. I am doing well today, and thank you for that introduction. I am excited, of course, to talk about something that I'm passionate about and something that I love, and that is goal setting and achievement.
Yes, absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit about your background? Before you founded Strategic Foresight Initiatives, what did you do?
Sure. I'll be happy to. My career progression was within corporate America, where I managed, where I led several lines of businesses, of course, to include several processes and several teams, which extended across East and West Coast. And so it was here that I learned or I witnessed how better resources and targeted education could help people to really be able to live a better quality of life, as well as a more purposeful and fulfilling life. And so I find that there was a common theme around several areas, although there were more, but I honed in on three that I witnessed and my experience demonstrated. So one of them is career progression. So career progression is, of course, being able to develop core marketable skills that align with current industry trends. So how does that interrelate with business? Well, when you are in your regular career, then you need to be able to understand your value worth. So what is your value worth? What do you bring to the table? What are your skills? What are your attributes? And you'll see how all of this ties in. And the second was leadership development. Of course, leadership development is an ambidextrous approach. You're not just a coach when you're a leader, but you're also a mentor also. But then too, you are the leader, so you are first partaker. So then what you're doing then is tapping into what? The potential, the value worth of those that you lead. So again, it goes back to that value worth. Then the third one was business development. And so business development, of course, is where you are putting into place to be successful in business. And so again, you have to understand what is your value proposition. So what is it that you bring to the table? What separates you from anyone else that does it? And so again, it's about value worth and understanding how to convey that value worth. So again, my career, these are things that were demonstrated within my career. I saw that there was a need, that these were some pain areas. And although these areas are the what, but we need a how. How do we actually do this, Joann? How do we actually develop our careers, our leadership, as well as our businesses? And that is through effective goal setting and achievement.
Nice. So tell us a little bit more about Strategic Foresight Initiatives and what it is that you do there, your role within the company.
And so that's where I was going to go. So that's where our Strategic Foresight Initiative was birthed.
Awesome.
Because when we talk about goal setting and achievement, strategic means planned, contemplated, intentional. Foresight means before sight, before you see it. You have a vision of where you want to go. And so initiatives are actions. So that is where we put into place actions that bring the vision into fruition, but understanding that this requires a strategic plan, which is, of course, goes back to goal setting and achievement.
Yeah. So How do you define goal setting? Could you give us a little bit more information on that?
Sure. Sure. But goal setting is actually a roadmap. So it's a roadmap towards desired expectation, desired outcomes. And so it's where you are putting into place a plan to be
Mhm.
able to obtain or to hit target goals that you have. And so it doesn't just happen. We can say this is what we want, but what are we going to do to put it into place? So we need something that is going to help us to be accountable to ourselves and be
Mhm.
responsible for ourselves while being intentional. And so that's where, when we talk about goal setting, that's one thing. But then we need something in place that's going to help us to set expectations, to establish boundaries, so that we do again keep ourselves, on track. And that's where this kind of leads right into something else. So, and that's where SMART goals are the best technique to use when it comes to goal setting and planning, because the SMART acronym is really task prioritization, where you are putting into place your objectives, but you want to hone them down into ensure that that they're specific, that they're clear, they're precise, that they are measurable, that they're quantifiable. How do you know when you're hitting? How do you know that you're on the right track? And then that they are attainable or achievable. Because a part of goal setting is that we want to keep ourselves motivated. So we
Right.
don't want to demotivate ourselves. So you don't want to put anything that's too big or that you're not able to chop into smaller pieces, again, to keep yourself motivated. And then we want to make sure as well that they are relevant, that the goals that you're going to be achieving, that they align with your core values, that they're aligned with who you are. And then time bound, of course, because if we give ourselves a goal, we don't want to just give ourselves a whole year or whatever to do it. We want to make sure that we put parameters around it. Again, because these parameters keep us motivated when we see that we're making these smaller steps and we can cross that off. Then that helps again to keep us motivated.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like in order for you to have an effective goal, well, to achieve the desired results in goal setting, you have to be honest with yourself upfront before you make this goal. And so I hear a lot of personal development in this goal setting, not just business development. Is that right?
Yes, 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 because along with growth is a decision.
Okay.
So, along with growing our businesses, we as well can be growing as people, as persons. And so, we always want to, because when we go into business, we do want to upfront to take an assessment. We want to look at, where we are, who we are when it comes to our character. What do we know? What is our expertise? What is our experiential knowledge? Will we need to acquire more? So we want to be able to understand that. We want to be able to understand our competency levels. Do I have everything that I need to possess in order to ensure that I'm creating value for my customers and my clients? Because it's really about being able to demonstrate and convey how your business creates value for its customers and for its clients, which on the end results in you acquiring, more clients, results in you being able to effectively market yourself. And the end goal of that is that you're continuing to build your brand. And so personal development plays a big part of that. So we want to walk parallel with that. So we want to be continually looking at ourselves and our capacity. If you find that you are in a business where there could be it could get really busy, well, know about yourself. Know whether or not your flexibility, your adaptability. Know your makeup, so that you know how to again be able to pull back and have some self-care in there to balance out everything.
I love it. And so planning sometimes, when it comes to goal setting, I've been in conversations where many would think that planning sounds mundane and rigid. Why do you think so many people think this way?
Well, from my experience, I don't think planning is as big of an issue as it is understanding your why, for why you're doing it. Because I find that the why, which is connected to your passion, is what keeps people motivated. And so when we look at it that way, when we bring it back to our big why and why we're doing this, I find that people are more, it's more easier to continue the steps that you need to take in order to bring that into fruition. That's why, if you're doing something in business, it's not just about, just having the passion, but the passion does help. But also, we just want to make sure that we want to be proactive. So we want to put those things into place that we don't have to be reactive. And so when people are able to connect their why
Mhm.
to the business concept of what they're doing and why it takes planning, I find that it comes across as more easily and people remain consistent to it.
Yeah, and you know what? I can actually relate to this. Whenever I'm doing something that I do not quite enjoy, like the Village Project is my passion. And whenever I'm doing something that I do not enjoy, it literally feels like a chore. Then it
Yes.
starts to feel, like, oh man, I got to do this, not right now. I prefer to do something else. But my why for, building the Village Project and developing the company, I get up every day, no matter the weather, no matter my feelings,
Mhm.
I get up and I do it. It doesn't feel like a chore. It literally, it feels more than, I can't even explain it,
Mhm.
I get up and I have a purpose, and then I just go and I look at my calendar. Hey, this is what I'm supposed to be achieving for the day, and I just move forward into my mission and my vision and things like that. With things that I do not enjoy, yes, it definitely does feel rigid, or it feels definitely like a chore. So your why, I do agree with that. Your why is really important.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely, because I find that it keeps us grounded.
Hmm.
It really keeps us grounded. It lets us know, to your point, when you get up, it's like, this is why I'm doing this. You've determined a pain, you've observed a pain, and you've observed how what this your program, you've observed how that can help people to not have to go through pain. So that they
Yeah,
don't have to, go through what you may have gone through or I've gone through. And that's a part of planning, because a part of planning is just positioning yourself. It's about positioning yourself. And so when we look at business success and longevity, it's about being able to position yourself. And we know that things happen that are without our control, because just like with the pandemic that we had. So there are some things that are out that are not within our control, but we can control what we can control. And I find
absolutely.
that it gives people a little bit more ease when things are in place already, that yes, they may have to pivot and do something differently. But when you have that foundation, you can always build upon it. We
Absolutely.
talk about like the house, if you build that strong foundation of planning and preparing, the wind can blow and the roof may blow off. But if you have a strong foundation, you can always, assess, and then modify and then add that roof back. But building that strong foundation. And so a lot of it in my coaching goes into planning, just understanding what planning entails and bringing their why and connecting their why. And then when we go through the steps of preparing as well, then that connects also, because that leads me into something else. When we talk about how your business creates value, then a lot of that is in the planning aspect. And so we do that in the planning aspect of it, because you really want, in order for you to convey and demonstrate this to customers, clients, key partners, then you need to be the first partaker of that. So that ties back into your big why, back into your value proposition. Why do you do what you do? What separates you from anyone else that does it? What gives you the advantage? Why should someone buy from you or purchase from you over someone else? But also your why helps you also when you're talking about your customer segments, because you want to understand who your customers are. This is all a part of planning. This is all a
Mhm.
part of planning. We haven't even got to anything else yet. This is a part of planning, building that strong foundation. Who are your customers? Who are the demographics? What are the demographics? Who the social aspect of it, the economic aspect of it. And so I don't truly believe that everybody is our customer, because we want to be intentional. We want to be specific. We want to make sure we've given thought so we can hone in and drill down to who our customers are, and we can focus directly to them. And then understanding again, then once you have customers, then what do we want to do? We want to build customer relationships, because we
Mhm.
want to be able to retain, and then we want to be able to organically grow as well. So how am I going to develop relationship with my customers? And then also, which goes into again a part of the planning, which is understanding who your key partners are. Who do you need to help you with to help you with your business? That's going to provide. That's going to be a key resource and that are going to perform key activities, because this is helps you to helps you to stay afloat. And then your cost structure. Again, back in the planning phase, you
Mm.
really want to understand initially what does it take, money wise, equipment wise, for you to be in business. And not only to be in business, but what does it take to maintain your business? So, we can sometimes have those variable costs, those fixed costs, those fluctuating costs, and this is what's going out. So, we want to understand that, again, setting ourselves up for success, doing what we can do to ensure that although something may happen, but we are positioning ourselves. And then revenue streams, which would be the last one. Again, all a part of planning, because you want to
Right.
be able to, if cost structure is where money is going out, then we want money to come in too. So the revenue streams and developing revenue streams and understanding how are you going to leverage what you do to bring in additional monies. But if we negate the planning phase, we don't get the big picture, the full picture of what our business looks like, of how we create value. And we really want to know our business. We want to know that, because again, when someone speaks, when someone asks it, we want to be able to come across confident, and but we want to be sincere and genuine. So that's why, in business success and longevity coaching, we do focus on building that strong foundation, again, to ensure that you set yourself up for success. And success is not a one-time thing. There are actions that you continually do to ensure longevity, because you want to be in this for the long haul. People get into business because they have a passion about it. And so you want to be able to, again, create a better quality of life for people, depending upon what that better quality of life looks for the individual.
Absolutely. So, definitely, what I took from what you said is that goal setting is an intentional funnel towards your vision. And I love it. You can be intentional. And I love what you said about your target market is not
Yeah,
everyone. That's something that I always talk about too, because, as a marketer, I always share that your target market is not everyone, because your brand is not a one size fit all. There is a
exactly.
specific need that is for who it is that you are serving. The solution serves a specific demographic of people. Who are they? What do they look like? So I love that you put that in there as far as goal setting, and that really do help with being intentional. There's another point that you mentioned that reminded me of a conversation that you and I had long ago, or maybe it wasn't that long ago, but I just said it was long ago. So when I think I'm a planner,
Hmm.
and I had this really bad habit at one point was I was planning everything and I was not being flexible on my goals. But one thing that you just mentioned was you could plan, but also be open to modifying it, because you just never know what the future may hold. Like no one predicted the pandemic last year. And so it's like, okay, when things doesn't go as you want to plan is what I'm hearing,
Hmm.
so that you
Hmm.
can be intentional in your efforts in your business development and your marketing strategy and planning. However, in case something happens with the season, with the
Yeah,
economy, you can
yeah.
modify. So there was something that you told me that has stayed in my head for since our last conversation about it. Don't focus on being perfect, Quay. Focus on excellence. So, can you please expand on that? Focus on excellence and not perfection, because a lot of us entrepreneurs, even established business owners, we want to get to that desired outcome. So, we are focused on planning, or some of us don't even get started. We become hesitant because we feel like we have to have our ducks in a row. How does goal setting helps with that focus on excellence and not perfection?
But that's a great question. And again, that is the purpose of goal setting and achievement. And that's why we went through that SMART acronym, because
Mhm.
again, we want to do all that we can do to control what we can control. And so we should be able to control us. If we can't control anyone outside, but we have full permission to control us. And so when we are seeking, a lot of times when I'm talking to clients and when they are seeking perfection, I find that it's not just about the perfection. There may be another area where they may feel less confident in, that they need to be able to build up so that they can get to excellence, because excellence is doing all that you can do. It's doing all that you can do to the best of your ability. Perfection is outside of that. No one is perfect. So if you're shooting for perfection, you're going to fail because no one is perfect. But what we talked about something as well when we talked about that was controlling what we can control and not focusing on what we cannot control. To me, that's the perfection. The perfection is trying to control what we can't control. Now, but if we do the work and we put in the work, then we don't necessarily have to be focused on, excuse me, whether or not it's going to turn out, because things may not turn out the way that we expect them to turn out, just like with Nick. So then we have a process where we can reassess. Then we reassess where we are, we address what we may find, we modify that, and then we adapt to the newness. I'm sorry, we adapt to the newness. And so again, when we talked about that, not focusing on perfection, because if you focus on perfection, you're going to be demotivated. You're going to be discouraged. Again, and what are you comparing yourself to? I find that sometimes when we're looking at perfection, because sometimes we're looking at what someone else may be doing or how they're doing it, or what may seem as though they are, they have it going on or things are going well with them. So a lot of times I find in talking with clients that there's some comparison going on, but you are unique to your business. And that's the way you want to think about it. You are unique to your business. And so with that being said, do your homework. Of course, I talk about this all the time. Do your homework, understand what you're getting into, because yes, this is your business. You are your own boss, but there are risks that comes with it. So again, go right back to when you're building that strong foundation, doing all that you can do. You got to let go of the rest of it. But you have to do all that you can do and making sure that you're setting yourself up for success. But then you have to let it go and trust that what you've done will bring it into fruition. And if it doesn't, just like the other things are going to be out of your control, go back, take a look at it. This is when we pivot. Okay, you go and you see that it didn't work or something happened. What do I do differently? What do I do now? So assess and then address, modify, and adapt.
Awesome. And can you please break down the SMART goals and the acronym for SMART?
Sure. And so again, SMART goal is task oriented, because we have a goal that we've set, we have a target that we want to hit. So then we want to break it down again to ensure that we keep ourselves motivated, that we don't overload ourselves. And so SMART, specific. So we want to make sure it's specific. So say for someone, and I only use this example because I've heard it several times. So say if someone is planning to get married and they say, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds, by my wedding date. Okay. So you want to lose 10 pounds. Okay. That's specific. You want to lose 10 pounds by your wedding date. Now, hopefully your wedding date is not tomorrow. Okay. So because you want to give yourself some time. So that is specific. You know exactly what you want to do. You want to lose 10 pounds by the time your wedding date is. Okay. So measurable. How do you know that you're on track to hit those milestones? Well, they're quantifiable. You want to make sure that they're quantifiable, of course, which is measurable. So maybe I'll lose 2 pounds a week for the next 6 weeks. So that's measurable because you have a number around it. Now, we want to make sure as well that it is attainable or achievable, because again, we want to keep ourselves motivated. So we don't want to stretch it too far to say, oh, well, I'm going to lose 5 pounds, in a week, or 10 pounds in a week, where it may not be achievable. You may end up being sick, or you may not be, up to your best. And so again, you want to have big goals, but you want to chop it up. So you want to make sure that it's achieved. And then you want to make sure that it's relevant, because if someone, this is they're getting married, so they're doing this because they want to look their best. And so they're tying it to their values. This is something that they value. They're getting married. They want to put all into it. So you want to make sure that is relevant, because that as well keep you honed and tied into it. And then time bound, which you want to give yourself a time limit. We don't just want to say, I'm gonna lose weight by my wedding date. Now your wedding date could be 2 years from now. So you really want to put some parameters around it because, again, the SMART acronym is about setting the expectations and creating boundaries, again, to keep you focused towards the end result, towards the targets that's going to get you to your intended result. And I find
Awesome.
that, and I find that even with the planning phase,
Mhm.
when we talk about the goal setting, even in the planning phase, this is what we do.
Awesome.
We actually do this. We actually do the smart setting of goals, again, to ensure you get to where you need to get. Again, if you're going into business, you do want to make sure that you have a strategy. You want to
Mhm.
ensure that you have a strategy. You want to ensure that you do the work up front because, again, we're talking about business success and longevity, and that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen easily. And so it takes a lot of work. So we really want to ensure that I find that that planning phase is really an eye opener because we talk about, what does it take? What is the foundation? Establishing an EIN number, having business license, incorporating your business, who's going to be your accountant, so when we start talking about all of these things, so people are like, oh, well, I didn't realize, all of that was entailed. But we're talking
Right.
about business success and longevity. So we want to not just you go into business, but we want you to be successful. We want you to be able to maintain. And so a lot of that, those parameters are established within the SMART goals.
Yes. So is goal setting and SMART goals included? Is that located in the business plan or the strategic plan or both?
Well, it can be in both because when we talk about your business plan, because when you talk about your business plan, you do have within your business plan strategies and tactics that's going to get you to your goals. So
Mhm.
within your business plan, when you're doing your when you're doing your marketing, again, you do want to hone that down and understand who your customer segments are, because you really want to be able to set again those parameters. So say if someone says to me today and we're talking and say, well, I'm interested in going into business. So the first thing I'm going to ask them is, when do you intend to launch? When do you intend to go into business? Because I want to hear some time frame because, again, I hear the stories, and a lot of times we talk about businesses that, the frightening number of how many businesses that don't make it. So I choose to not focus on those that don't, but I focus on the successes of those that are in it, that has been in it for a while. And so I find that that planning phase is what, when they put in that work, the planning phase is what gives them that stickability, if I can say that as a word, but it helps them to keep them grounded and tuned into it.
Yes. And is leadership or should leadership development be added to goal setting?
And that goes back to what we talked about earlier. Leadership, I'm big on leadership because that's what my master's is in, organizational leadership and development, with an emphasis in coaching and mentoring. Because leadership it plays a dual role because we're all maybe in some form, shape, or fashion in what may be a leadership role. May not be in a corporate America or something, but we could be in a leadership role. And again, growth is a decision. So I think that as we are growing our businesses, that we do want to assess ourselves as well. What are our abilities, as we talked about earlier? What are our abilities? What are our capabilities? Do we need additional training? Do we need key partners or people that's going to supply those resources? Because leadership is really also, we are the examples. And when we think about that, when we're in business, we're in our communities, we are the pillars within our community. So we really want to represent our businesses in a professional manner. And so we want to, again, take that time to ensure that, when we open our mouths, that we are able to influentially communicate what we do and how we do it and the purpose for doing it. And leadership, again, is also about being able to tap into, others and be able to pull out their potential within them also. That's the same way as when we have customers. We may have a customer for us if we have someone that's going into business. I want to understand as a leader, I want to understand where you are. I want to understand your character, your competencies, and your capacity level so that we can talk about that and you can build yourself up as well so that when you open your doors, not only have you positioned your business, but you position you as well because you are the example of your business. And as a business owner, we are leaders. We are leaders within our community.
And so you mentioned about mindset a little. So can the hustle mindset affect goal setting?
I'm glad you mentioned that because a hustle, the term hustle is one of those terms that can be a bad thing, and it can be a good thing. But it's
Hmm.
all a matter of the perspective of it. So when
Okay.
we say hustle, by hustle, do we mean that when you're in business, that there are times that you got to go at it, that you got to, especially when you're first starting, and you got to go because you're building that momentum. You're getting out there, getting your product or your service out there. You're getting the exposure. So there's a certain amount of time that you got to be on it. So I can look at hustle from that way. But then there's the hustle side of where this may not be something that's really a passion of yours, but is being done as a way to for whatever to make money. And so if that's the case, then that's goal setting is going to be totally different because it's all a part of the intentions of that person. So when we talk about hustle, hustle can help goal setting because that's that part of it when we talk about being specific and relevant and time bound. But also, if you're hustling, you also want to be able to control what you can control too. So
Hmm.
you don't want to just be out there hustling just to be hustling, but let there be some intention behind it. Let there be some intention behind it. And that's why I often ask people if they're talking about a business, I will ask them, is this a hobby? Is this a hustle? Or is this something that you found a need and that you can feel the infirmity of the people? You've gone through something that ties into your why that helps you to be able to be in this for the long haul. Now, if it is for a hustle and you're just doing this to make some money on the side, know that we should know what we're doing and what we're getting into. So from that perspective, yes, goal set, hustling, being a hustle or hustler can play a role on goal setting because it just depends upon what your intentions are. So we need to know, but we still need to know that up front. So I do often ask that question if people feel that it's a hobby, if it's a hustle, or is it something that they see for the long term. So that way we know how to approach it.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's really important to because like you mentioned, there is a difference between, that the second hustle mindset versus just getting up every day and making sure that
Yes.
you are, being intentional on your strategy and hustling in that kind of way. Absolutely. There is a huge difference between the two. And is there a popular business advice that you actually disagree with?
Well, when it comes to, because business advice is a matter of perspective and disagree in areas that we may disagree on. So it's a matter of perspective. So what I do focus on, again, is what I believe to be the best or what I've seen demonstrated. So I will focus on what I see best demonstrated, which goes back into that planning aspect of it, because we
Mhm.
can have different perspectives of what success looks like. But however, in being able to actually walk that out, then we want to be able to be consistent. My best advice would be anyone going into business that they first understand that you are scaling. That means you're starting somewhere, but you're aiming at a goal. So my best advice is to ensure that you have a strategy, to ensure that you have something that's contemplated. And I do suggest having a business coach, and we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But having a strategy, having a plan, but also understand that calculate the cost, count the cost, because there are risks that goes into it. You're your own boss, but however, yes, there are still things. Everything falls on you at the end of the day. Understanding as well that business is accelerated, which means once you put your foot on the gas, you want to continue to go forward. That's why you really want to ensure that this is something that you're passionate about, so that you can continue to go forward. And then that business is linear. So that means that you're not going to just arrive. There's not a straight path. They're going to be a series of contemplated steps that you take. And then thirdly, that business ownership also is exponential, which means after you've done your homework and you've counted the costs and you've made up your mind that this is what you're going to do and you understand your customer base and this is what you're going to be doing, you found that there is a pain and this is how you can help alleviate that pain, then go forward. Then get out there, go do it, expose yourself, talk to people, be a part of organizations, be a part of organizations or experiences that are going to open you up. So my best advice would be is to ensure that people understand that it is strategic, it is calculated, it's accelerated, it's linear, and that is exponential. And that's the best advice. And so, again, different people, because it's a matter of methods and perspectives when it comes to advice. But again, just like focusing on the successes of the business, I focus more so on the successes of the business and just making sure that people do understand it, because I want people to be successful.
Absolutely. And likewise, and I know that, as woman to woman, there are nearly 13 million women owned businesses in the United States. And so there are actually over 114% more women entrepreneurs in the US as it was opposed, 20 years or so ago. So, with that, do you have any goal setting solutions for parents who find it challenging to maintain and manage family life all the while starting a business?
And you know what? And that's a great question, because that's real. That's real. And
Mhm.
so that is what we talk about. We often hear about work-life balance.
Mhm.
And so, coming from corporate America, I have worked where it was salary, and I've also where it was hourly. And what I find is that work-life balance is in the eyes of the beholder. And by that, what I mean by that is that there is no 1, 2, 3 or ABC checklist to
Mhm.
say you do 1, 2, 3, you're going to have work-life balance,
Right.
because work-life balance looks different for one from one to the other. There are many variables because we have different family dynamics. We have different, all of our jobs are not the same. They don't operate the same. And so what
Mhm.
I found work-life balance to be is that we create a norm even within chaos. And by that I mean, again, for one, it looks different for another. So when I was leading and traveling a lot within corporate America, I had peers, because I had peers that, we had children, or we were married, or some people were single. And so what looked like for the single person as opposed to the married person was totally different. So I had a peer that she was committed to, although she traveled a lot, she was committed to, before her kids went to bed at night, she read them a bedtime story. Although she was out of town, she read them a bedtime story. She put that in her schedule intentionally to ensure that she made that connection each night. Now, if for someone that's married, if and again, different family dynamics are different. Is there someone that can be the one to be home, that's there for the kids when they get home? And then when the other one gets in, they take the time at that time, allow the other person to rest, and then they pick up. Or is there a time where, if you're home and you're going in and you're fixing dinner and you're spending that time with your family, and you say, after that, maybe like 7:30, I'll go and I'll do emails. I'll look at my emails. I'll read my emails. And so again, because we have different dynamics, we have to be able to find our own and create our own normalcy within chaos. And by chaos, I mean, there's a lot of things that's going on that we have to do. We have commitments and responsibilities, but it is not the same for each person. And so I would suggest, even if someone is going into business, that's one of those things that we talk about as well. How do you create norm in the midst of all that's going on? Because again, we do want to be able to create that balance, but there is no one size fits all.
Right. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And so I know that we're coming to a close for VP Media Pro. I am so excited. And thank you so much, Joann, for coming on the show today. And so before you go, I just have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
So outside of, coaching entrepreneurs and small business owners to their highest and best self, what are some things that you enjoy doing?
Well, I am a lifelong learner. So that is one of the reasons why, that ties into my why in what I do when it comes to coaching, businesses, and being a consultant, is because I am a lifelong learner. So I learn just as much, from because people have such great ideas and they're very innovative. And so I'm a lifetime learner. And so that's the reason why that's tied to that. But also from a personal perspective as well, I love to travel, and being a lifelong learner, I love to travel because I love to see, different things, to witness, just the differences within different states and platforms and mountains and all of that. But also art, lifelong learner as well. I love art, the different different types of art and exploring art and what is art, because we may think, oh, well, that's art, but being able to appreciate what goes into and the thought that went into something that someone created. And so eating different types of foods, exploring different types of foods, that as well, I'm a lifelong learner. So I'm always, if I hear a recipe that someone is using, I do want to be able to incorporate that. And it's even a plus if I can incorporate avocados, which I love. And so, and
Likewise.
so again, and being a lifetime learner and a reader, I'm an avid reader as well, because again, learning, because again, we want to be able to have a conversation with people. So I always say, know a lot, know a little about a lot. So that you can always have a conversation. You can be dropped anywhere and have a conversation. And so I enjoy writing as well. I continue to write now. There's some other things that I'm working on now. So all of these things are inclusive within being a lifelong learner.
Absolutely. Likewise for myself, I'm a lifelong learner as well. Stumbling.
I know it's a tongue twister, because if you see me, I was pausing.
Yes,
it's a tongue
it is
twister.
a twister. Yes, I am definitely a lifelong learner. And it's really important too as an entrepreneur to make sure that I do things outside of building a business, because that actually keeps me level headed, which goes into your point that you made about work life balance, and how to maintain and manage a business. I know when I first started, business, I thought I had to hustle, as we talked about earlier with those two examples. I had to hustle every day, team and no sleep. And my goals were not being accomplished because, I had the right intention. I was definitely intentional, but I experienced that burnout. So definitely with goal setting, and with your taking your advice and things like that, that really helped me to be level,
Yes, yes.
as you mentioned, every business is definitely different, but I've found my sweet spot as far as business planning. Well, that's it for today. Thank you, Joann, for your time and letting us know, about goal setting and how to be intentional in our goal setting towards personal development as well as business development. It has been a pleasure talking to you today, and I'm sure those who've listened learned so much. Be sure to like and follow the Village Project on social media. We're actually on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at the moment. To catch up and recap of today's episode, leave a comment and let us know your takeaway from today's episode as well. Also, you can subscribe to the emailing list at www.villageproject.net to receive notifications on when a new episode posts and more. Again, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Joann. And
Thank
as
you.
always, yes, and as always, grind hard, self care harder.